If his brand is that he's authentic and he will give Canadians the straight goods and he will tell us what he knows and what he doesn't know, the fact that his instinct was to couch the truth, I think, is quite troublesome. Yeah.
The CBC, our bloated taxpayer-funded state broadcaster, runs a panel called At Issue, and it's packed with the same predictable establishment-friendly talking heads. But they've refused to disclose how much they're paying these people. Now, it's okay if you haven't seen At Issue before. You're not alone. Nobody watches it. But I wanted to know how much Andrew Coyne's fainting coach debutante hysteria about Trump, Chantal Hébert's misinformation about independent media, including us.
Monsieur Poilievre, cette semaine, dans un point de presse, a exclu, via son personnel, des questions, tous les médias traditionnels pour en accepter 4 qui sont identifiés à la droite ou à l'extrême droite, dont Rebel News, qui fait campagne pour le 51e État.
And Althea Raj's partisan liberal insider hot takes, as Trudeau's own biographer, were costing us taxpayers. But when we asked, the CBC refused to tell us. To be clear, I know the CBC can't or won't tell me what each person makes per appearance. I wanted to know how much the panel as a whole was costing us. But instead of a total expenditure amount, we got a list of appearances the trio were contracted for with all the relevant information blacked out. Why? Well, they threw out 3 different exemptions to dodge even the most basic transparency. First, they cited Section 18B, claiming the payment details are competitive information. Yes, you heard that right. The CBC wants you to believe that if Canadians knew how much they were paying Coyne, Hébert, and Raj, then CTV or Global might swoop in and outbid the state broadcaster for their talents.
It will be very hard to sell a leader who is turning out to be an intellectual bully. Especially one who picks on people who are smaller than him, in the sense that the journalist asking a question is smaller than someone who is the leader of a major party. And I don't know what is being said outside Quebec in the other language, but I was on a panel today, and the words I used associated with Pierre Poilievre, and they are gaining currency, is that he is someone who will lie whenever it suits his purpose.
Then there's Section 19.1, which they claim protects personal information. Now, normally, salary details are considered private. But let's not forget, we already know the pay range for the CBC president. And there's one more detail. The law actually allows individuals to consent to having their salaries disclosed, meaning the only reason we don't get to know what the CBC pays these panelists is because Coyne, Raj, and Hébert want to keep it a secret. If they had any respect for transparency, they could simply say, sure, just let the public know, but instead they hide behind these legal loopholes. Now, speaking of loopholes, the CBC pulled out their favorite magic trick, Section 68.1. This is the CBC's special exemption for journalism, which they invoke whenever they want to dodge accountability. But how does hiding Andrew Coyne's paycheck relate to journalism? This exemption is meant to protect editorial independence and not shield financial transparency from the very taxpayers who fund them. And that's where this really all falls apart. Even if we accept their argument that the individual amounts should be private, and I kind of do accept that argument, there's absolutely no reason to withhold the total amount the CBC spends on at-issue panelists as outside contractors. That's not their personal salary info. That's a spending line item. And yet the CBC refuses to disclose the very thing we actually asked for. I mean, I can find out if I wanted to how much CBC spends on janitorial as a line item.
You ate chicken out of the trash on the set when you were working the U.S. election.
I'm so proud of that. Ran and got the nuggets out of the garbage and ate them.
And why are they hiding this? Well, I think it's because if Canadians knew just how much money was being funneled into these same tired voices repeating liberal-approved narratives every week, there'd be outrage. It's just a taxpayer-funded echo chamber, and the CBC will fight tooth and nail to keep it that way. Now, as for you, shut up and pay for it all. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you're like me and you think the state broadcaster's utility ran its course a very long time ago, well, have I got good news for you. Head on over to rebelnewsstore.com, where you can wear your disdain for the taxpayer waste of the CBC on your chest. Again, that's rebelnewsstore.com.